you, at one stage, stated again on the internet that you're a fan of historical anachronism. And in the way,
depends,
in the way that Mary is talking about reinventing classics, whether you like it or not, and perhaps not in a Graves scale or indeed in a Ridley Scott scale of things, you are influencing ways in which people are thinking about the classics by the books you write, and more, I suppose, Tom than Mary by sheer numbers. Is that something you think about, you're conscious of, and you take into account when you are popularising this classical world? I'm sort of slightly shifting attention here.
When I was very young, I was into dinosaurs. They were big, they were fierce, they were extinct. Then I sort of moved on from dinosaurs basically to Romans, which likewise are big, fierce, and extinct. And
they might be for you, but they're not for me. Romans, right? And dinosaurs, for that matter. But, you know.
And Spartans, which I was also very keen on when I was about 10. And the visceral childhood pleasure that I got from reading about Greece and Rome then is something that I've never forgotten. And for me to write about them is to go back and somehow get in touch with the sense of pleasure that I had then. And I think there is something incredibly intoxicating about remembering things that inspired you when you were young. They have a sort of freshness, a quality of freshness to them. And I want people to share in that passion. When something has changed your life, has infused you, has given you a sense of pleasure, of course you want people to share it. And so I guess that ultimately that is what inspires me. Nothing makes me happier than somebody coming up and saying, well, I was going to study the Nazis, but now I'm going to study ancient Rome. I go, yes, that is true victory. I guess really that's my ambition, is to stop people from studying the Second World War and to get them to study ancient Rome. That's my underlying motive.
This seems to me nice, and it seems to be quite a luxurious position to hold, because I then have to teach the people that you inspire to study the Romans. So I have a different day-to-day view on this, and I obviously share quite a lot of Tom's kind of, something must have, something sparked us off to be more than usually interested in antiquity. I think everybody's interested in antiquity. I don't see how you couldn't be, You go to Pompeii, how could you not be interested in it? It's absolutely bonkers. But some of us get more than usually interested, and I can trace. We also have self-mythologizing myths about why we're interested in it, and one of mine certainly would be the first time I went to the British Museum when I was about 5, and I was taken by my mum. We lived a long way away. I'd never been to London before. The British Museum was where you went in London. This was in the very early 60s. And I went and saw the Elgin marbles, and nobody had told me about that sort of stuff before. I had no idea that people could do that so long ago, And then I went to see the Egyptian gallery, and it was a very old-fashioned museum then, and I was looking at all the things like the bread, the Egyptian bread that survived, and a warder came along and he opened the case for me and got a piece of this bread out, because I was little and I couldn't really see. And there was 2 things I think, I can see that it's a self-mythologizing retrospective view, but I thought, gosh, how does something like this survive? How possibly do we have that kind of direct contact with the ancient world? And I also thought, it was memorable. I thought, unlocked, locked cases can be unlocked for you, quite literally. And, I was lucky enough to find that for me. And I spend, every day of my life, I don't have the luxury of going on to the Middle Ages. I'm paid to do the ancient world, and that's what I'm going to do until I retire. I think it's a privilege to do that. And I don't think about it as science fiction, otherwise it would be quite unsettling, I think. But I do think that I've got a job which is similar to Tom's in some ways, but I would configure it slightly differently, which is that apart from all the messianic guff about how irreplaceable classics is, because I think it is, and I wouldn't go on doing what I did if I thought classics could be dispensed with, I'd go and do Icelandic, I think, or something else. What I want to do in writing is help people feel confident that they can explore and enjoy the ancient world, that you don't have to be a boffin, you don't have to have done Latin and Greek at A-level and then at university to really enjoy the exploration of antiquity. And I think in some ways that's kind of complementary to what Tom's saying. I hate popular history, most of it, apart from Tom's. Tom's I very much like, of course. Because I think what it doesn't do, and I think I am putting a bracket round him for reasons that if you've read the books you'll see. I think most popular history is terribly disempowering of its readership. It doesn't help people think that they can think too about what's going on in antiquity. It just tells them, it's kind of, it's an imposition of a view. It's telling people, probably untruths, really, but packaged to be educational. And the one thing that, every day of the week with my undergraduates, we talk about how difficult it is to understand what happened in the ancient world and how fascinating it is to puzzle about it,